Good afternoon, everyone. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Good afternoon, sir. I hear you.
All right. Good afternoon. So we'll be starting. I'm starting now. Just want to see if I can have more people join. So, all right. Let's begin. So from the last class you had with, who was able to do the exercises, the assignment again? Is there any challenge? Or hello, please, if you are online, please can you please respond? Let me know if there is a challenge from your attempt so we can know where to pick it up. Hello. Please, if you were
Okay.
here,
It was
I didn't
fine.
get it. Okay, so I want to believe everyone present here or everyone who attended the last class had done the assignment. All right, because it is we are building on it. So we can't skip a process. You can't skip a step. For every meeting you have is a prerequisite to the next one. So it is very important that all instructions are being followed. So we don't just um, waste our time on things we don't want to do. I'll begin immediately. Well, before then, I will do some recap on what he explained. From the last meeting, you people did variables, data types, I guess. Yes, you did variable, arithmetic, and variables. All right, so today we'll be covering the four remaining parts of the introduction to programming, which is function, data types, conditional statements, and lists. So I want us to pay very, very close attention because we only have 1 hour to use. So the class will be rounding up by 5 p.m. So please, um, let's do well to pay attention keenly. I'll share my notes now. Okay, let me work on Google Colab. So I'll use that as keep my own notes here. So from the last class, I want to believe you all know what variables are now. Can somebody help us out or just give some description of what variable is? Hello? You are making me feel like maybe I need to go back a step, which I'm trying to avoid because I'm assuming you have those previous knowledge on variables to build on the next one. So it will not be good when I keep building on it and you don't actually know what the background is. Okay, I'll do my best to do a quick recap. Um, Variables are more similar to a container that holds values. And they are called variable because the value can change. Then I wanted to share my Colab screen. Okay, this is my working environment. So it says a variable holds entity. But before I do that, I'll quickly talk about inbuilt function. Then we'll now go back to variable. Python has several functions. Some are built in with Python, while some you'll be writing them on your own. So let me talk about the first inbuilt function you mostly come across. Is the print function. It's as simple as just saying display. So when you want to display anything to the user, you just have to use the print function here. So I'll do a simple test running. I'll just say welcome to Python. So if I run this cell, to get to this place, you can just go to your browser, type Google Colab, you get where I am. So I'm using an online version of Jupyter Notebook made by Google. So you can see my output, which says welcome to Python. So this print function here, print function is an inbuilt function. Are we together? I will talk about another inbuilt function, which is, I believe you can see my screen, which is the input. Are we together? So let's assume that we want to create a simple application, or we want to write a simple command that is going to welcome everyone who joins this meeting. So first of all, I can easily say welcome to Python class here, but I want to add your name. Maybe I want to be more specific about who I'm welcoming. I want to welcome Fuhad. So to do that, I need to accept input from the user. So to store that name I want to accept from the user, I need a place to store it. And that place or a container to store it is known as a variable. Are we together? So when I say name equal to, so equals to Fuhad here, you can see that I have this like assignment here. I will say print name. So when I say print name and I run this code, it's going to say Fuhad. You can see the output here. Are we together? So I want to make it more. Go ahead, please.
Sir, your screen seems frozen. Okay, it's coming up.
What is it?
It was my
Okay, let me stop sharing. Share again. How about now? Is it clear now?
I can see it now. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So now let me customize this and say name, comma, welcome to Python class. If I run this cell, you can see I have had welcome to Python class, as you can see now. So two things we have done here. We have made use of a variable to store the name. And the variable name is, the variable can be anything here. I can call it attendee. All right. So I can say, so if I need to run this, I need to change this variable inside the print function to attendee. If I run it now, I'll still have the same output. Are we together? Nonetheless, we don't want to have a static code where you cannot change whatever is happening. If I need to write another code now using this kind of method, I will have to write another line of code to greet. I mean, if I want to write a code to greet another person, then I have to either edit what I've done or I write a new one entirely. So let's assume I want to welcome Rashidat. So let me go back to my. To welcome Rashidat, I will either copy all this, paste it, and change the name. I'll change the name to Rashidat. So if I run this, you can see it says Rashidat, but I want to use one program to solve everything. I don't need to be writing code for each of them. So to solve that problem, we have to, I need to introduce it to another function, another inbuilt function called impute function. So impute function. Take note, all Python functions end with this open and close bracket. You have seen it. So I will delete this. I don't need it because I want to use one program to solve everything. So instead of creating just a variable here, I'm going to just assign it to an impute function. So I'll say impute, enter your name. If I run this particular cell now, it's going to prompt me that I should enter the name. So if I say Fuhad here, then it's going to say Fuhad, welcome to Python class. Let's assume I want to greet somebody else and that person wants to use it. If I run this cell again and I say Rashidat, then it says Rashidat, welcome to Python class. You can see the way we have been able to solve the problem without writing another line of code, introducing impute function. Are we together? Okay, so let's move on. Another thing I need to emphasize again is this variable. You can see the variable. The variable we have here now is attendee. Let us talk about some rules in forming variable. You cannot create a variable with space. Let's assume you want to write a code that will say first name. You cannot say first, then space, name equal to Fuhad. If you do this, it's going to generate an error. Why? Because of the space. So instead of using space, you can rather use underscore as a separator there. Then you can see that it works here. Are we together? So that is that. You cannot start a variable with a digit. If you run this now, because I'm starting my variable first name with 0, it's going to generate error. Are we together? There are many more simple rules there. You can make your research then and find out more. I'll jump into, I won't talk about writing our own function now, but we'll later come back to that soon. So let's quickly talk about data types. In Python, there are three data types there. Three data types in Python actually. The first data type, please, are you seeing my screen? If you can see, if you can't see, let me know. Let me delete this line that has I don't need to explain. All right, I have a clean cell. So let's assume I have a variable. Variable 1. It is 710. Variable 2 is 7 10.2, 20.2 rather. Variable 3 is saving what, right? I know you are all familiar with this. Can somebody tell me what data type is variable 1?
An integer.
Thank you so much. It's an integer. What about variable 2?
Float.
A float. Variable 3?
String.
String. Thank you so much. However, we have a function to actually check that. To do that, we can use type. So when I say type, I need to print it out anyway. Okay, first of all, let me say type variable 1. Let me run it up in print function. And I print this. It's going to tell me variable 1 not defined. I haven't run the previous cell. I need to run this particular cell. Good. So let me now run this again. So you can see we have int as a class type. If I change this to variable 2, float, and variable 3, that should give me string. So you were all correct. That's a good one. Thank you. So the next thing I want to quickly talk about, arithmetic operators. You've all seen that from last class. And I believe you were all told to read on that. The next thing I want to talk about is relational operators or operators generally. But I won't just talk about it. I'm going to give a task because I know many of you would have been able to, many of you are already used to it. So I don't want to beat around the bush. Let's just deal ourselves and get more knowledge rather than repeating what we already know. I'll paste the question now. So if you can quickly attempt that, let me break this into multi-line string. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So the question says we have to write a simple 2-line program that takes the parameter n as input and is going to tell us which. Now let me give some. I believe it's on my screen already. You can read it from it. What the program is going to do is that it's going to accept an input from the user. If the input is less than 100, it's going to print out false. If it is greater than 100, it's going to print out true. Please don't use if statements. If you are done, you can just 2 minutes. I said 2 minutes is too much. Maybe 30 seconds. If you are closer to your computer, you can quickly attempt it. First to finish, you can share user screen. As a simple task, don't use if statement. Because we are still coming to the if statement. If you are working on phone, or if you have Android phone, you can download Pydroid, so you can work on from your phone. And many of you might be meeting up with from via phone. So please, you can download Pydroid from your Play Store, so you can run your Python codes. Are we attempting it? Time up. So let's solve this. Who is done already? Maybe I should give more some seconds or to finish up. Is it hard? By now, somebody should have triggered an answer already. One should have come up with a solution. All right, so that we not waste our time because just 1 hour for this class. So this is the code. The first line of code, the first line is actually accepting input. You notice how I wrap it with int. This is code casting. I'm still going to talk about it soon. So the next, then I print using relational operator. Print if, don't forget that relational operator are operators that you can use to compare. So if you are comparing two comparable data types, the output will be either true or false. So since what we want to get is also either true or false, you can just compare, say n greater than or equal to 100. If it is, if I run this now, it's going to ask me to input a digit. So let me say 90. This should give me false. So I know many of you will be very, very keen to use if statements. Coming there soon. Let's move on. And now at where we can use if statement. Now let's now go to if statement, which is called conditional statement. I'm going to solve this particular task we have just done with if statement. First of all, I need to accept the user input because we want to compare. If the number is greater than or equal to 100, we want true, else we want false. So I will say, I'll call the variable value. Then we say, let me just int. I need to just copy this line of code to save my time. So I'll paste it here. So that is for this. Then I can now build my if statement. If the value is greater than or equal to 100, then I'll say print true, else print false. If I run this code, we will have the same thing, the same output, just like as the previous one. So if I say 120, I should have true. If I run this line of code again, and I say 80, I should have false, or 89, I should have false. Now, the question is now, which is better? We are in programming, we always tend to flow according to our best practice or what we know best. Although it is better to write a shorter line of code, but don't forget your code must also be readable. Exactly. But then the more you keep going, you in Python, you'll be familiar to the PEP rules. Python has rules, so many rules to follow, which includes how your writing style, your writing structure that you can follow as well. So you can just Google, make your research on PEP rules for Python, then you know more about that. Does anyone have question before I proceed to the next agenda? Any comments? Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is nested if statement. Nested if statement. Don't forget, we've not talked about how to build our own function. We've only learned inbuilt function. Now we took three of the inbuilt function: print, input, and type function. All right, so let's now move on to nested if statement. Sometimes we might want to have if under if. Let's say that we want to first of all check the value. If the value is greater than 100, right, then we print true. If it is, let me put it this way. Let me just check my note and see what I can generate. Okay, I'll copy this. So I can't think of a better task for now. I'll paste this. Please let's follow this. Now look at this structure here. This is not code anyway, but it can be used to explain what I want, but it's not going to run if I run this particular cell because all this app launch is not doing anything. There's no function to reference here. Now let's say we have two conditions. If the weather is good, and else if the weather is not good. Take note, if the weather is good, then we now check another condition. Look at, we have if under this previous if. So if the weather is good, then we now check again. If nice restaurant is found, then if it is found, we have lunch. Else, we eat sandwich. Are we together? Then the whole of this falls under if the weather is good. If the weather is not good, then we check again. Are tickets available? If tickets are available, go to the lunch, go to the theater. Else, go for shopping. So you can see what I actually want to bring out from there is that we can have if statement under if statement. Another thing I want to talk about under this conditional statement is I need to delete this. It's going to generate error. I can have several statements by using the elif statement. Let's assume I want to write a simple program that can promote students based on their score. First of all, I need to have a variable called score. Then I accept input for it. Then I say input, enter score. Right? Then I can just say if score is let's create a rule for that first. Let's assume from 90 to 100 is A. Let's make it 70. From 70 to 100 is A. From 60 to 70 is B. I only stop at those two conditions. So I'm not going to, you can then generate more. So let's say if score is greater than or equal to 80. Now this is another condition again. The another operator which is called logical operator. So if I use and here and score is less than or equal to 100. Let me quickly explain this. Let's assume that when you use hash in Python, it means you are using comments. So that's just comments. So I want to say, let's say score equal to 87, right? Now let's check this condition. The first condition says score greater than 80. Is score greater than 80? My screen is hanging. Let me wait for a while.
Yes, the score is greater than 80.
Score is greater than 80. So which means the first output here, since it is logical, I mean it is relational, it's going to generate true for this one. Then it goes again. Is score less than or equal to 100? It's going to generate true here. So if you are very familiar with Boolean operator or what's it called? Several topics is in maths, is in further maths, is in computing. All these are logical operators anyway. Or if you are doing, you can say digital electronics, something that are doing logic in mathematics. So let's say true and true. We all know what the output will be. So true and true will generate true. So which means this particular line of code we evaluate only if this AND operator evaluates to true. So in this case, I'm going to say, if this is true, if it is greater than or equal to 80 and less than or equal to 100, then I need to print grade A. Now, this is another thing I want to use now. Elif. Elif is also part of it. That is, it is used to shorten else. If so, Elif score is what our next condition from 60 to 80. Score is greater than or equal to 60, and score is less than or equal to, that is 79. All right. So then we say print B. Let me make it more. Let me put it grade A, grade B. That would be more better. I'll just say grade B. All right. So these are just the two conditions that we use. I want this line of code. I'll put, let me say 76. Notice it says greater than or equal to not supported between instances of string and integer. That means we are actually comparing integer and string. By default, input function accepts string. So whether you are putting digits or not, it is a string. So in that case, you need to cast. I said we are going to talk about casting the other time. So now to cast from one data type to other, you just need to wrap it around that particular data type. So if I say int here, it's going to convert it to integer. However, as a programmer, you should be aware that not everybody will score whole number. Some might score 89 and a half, 82.5. So it means we have to use a float data type. So once you use a float data type, that will help us to avoid that issue of generating error. So I run this code again now, and I say 78. Then you see the output, grade B. Are we together? So that is if function. So we've talked about if function, talk about nested if. I've also taken elif. However, if you are going to end with else, it must always be the last thing. You cannot end, if you are going to end with else, it must be the last thing. So I can just say else, I can say print try harder. Right? So that will type in options that are less hard than those. So you just say try harder. Did you see that? Does anyone have question before I proceed? No question. All right, let's move on. The next thing I want to talk about now is list. Right? So we've talked about, please, all these notes, I know I'm rushing them, but I'm only giving you a background explanation. Go back to your Kaggle notebook, read them, and complete the exercises. But with this explanation, you'll be able to grasp or understand those concepts they're trying to explain. So I'll talk about list now. So far, we've stored value in variables. So if I say equals to 6, if I need another variable, if I need to save another data, or maybe I want to save string, I have to declare another variable. Let's say 3 variable. And I will say hello. I'm saving hello in that particular variable. This might not be okay in some of the tasks you want to solve, or depending on the problem you want to solve. you might need to actually use one variable to save many things at the same time. So in that case, you will need to use a list. Let's say I'm coming out to open my notes. Look at this here. Now, look at how I created 6 variables and I allowed the user to enter the values by themselves by using the input function, which must be an integer because I have cast it to integer. Now, I will actually do another thing. I want to create one variable to store all this whole thing now. To do that, I'll create one variable called variable. Then I will use this operator. Once you open this bracket, two brackets, you are declaring a list. Are we together? Other ways to do that is to just use list. This will become empty list. If I do print variable, then I should have an empty list here. The same way, if I just do something like this, and I print it out, I still have the same thing. Now let's populate our list now. I'll populate it with the members I have online. I'll say Fuhad, Nosa. So let me just come here. First one, Fuhad, comma, Nosa. I hope I got that right. Yes, I got that right. Rashidat and Blessing. So, comma, Rashidat, Blessing. Look at how I've populated the variable now. Let me print everything and see. The output, look at I have everything inside one variable. One benefit of this is that you can also accept other type of other data types. So far, we've only stored string in this variable. Let me try to put it another this variable name. Let me say data, right? So I'm going to change this print to data. So good. So this particular variable can store value aside string. So I'm going to store integer now, which is 10. I'm going to store floats, which is 35.2. I'll print data again. Notice it has been populated. Now, the question is now, how do I access each of the items in this variable called data? To do that, that leads us to slicing or indexing, to be precise, mistake. So indexing in list, take note, the first item we have here is Fuhad. The second item is Nosa. The third item is Rashida. The fourth item, Blessing. Fifth, 10. And the sixth is 35.2. Despite that this is the first item, it has index 0. Fuhad as an item in this list is index 0. Nosa is index 1. Rashida is index 2. Blessing is index 3, and so on. So to access the first item, so I'll just call my data variable and I'll index it by using this. Take note, I'm using this. The other type of bracket on your keyboard. This is bracket. We usually use this to call a function. If you use this, it means another thing as well in Python. This is for dictionary. So the correct bracket to use is this type of bracket. Please don't make that mistake. So now I want to access the first item. So I'll just say this. Since I want to print out, I'll do print data. Then it's print out Fuhad. If I need to access the second, then I'll say index 1 and it's print Nosa. If I need to access the next, and so on and so on. What about if I want to start accessing from the back? Maybe I want to access, okay, I need to let me make this class interactive, even though we are rushing because of time. How do I access 35.2? Or let me make it 10. Who knows? Somebody should help us out. I want to
From the
access 10.
front
What
or
should be
from the back?
from the front, from starting from here?
Peter,
Go ahead. I will just need to
Peter
change this.
4.
This to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is correct. So that should give me 10. Now, if I'm accessing from the back, all you just need to do is to use negative. If I use -1, notice it gives me 35.2. If I use -2, it gives me 10. If I use -3, it gives me blessing. And so on. -4, -5, minus that, you get the next one. Are we clear with that? Now, the next thing I want to talk about now is, what if I want to access more than one item at the same time? I will say, I want to access from Fuhad to blessing. That is where slicing comes in. What we did the other time was indexing an item in a list. So to do that, I'll start from index 0. Take note of this colon I use. It means in a layman word, I can say 0 to. Since I want to get to blessing, what index is blessing? Somebody should help us out. What index is blessing?
Index 3.
Index 3.
Index
Thank you
3.
so much. If I put index 3 here, it will only print Fuhad, Nosa, and Rashida. Why? Because if you are slicing, it will always give you one lesser than this last one here. In documentation, this is 0 is called start. 3 is called end. So our start is 0 and our stop is 3. So it will always be 1 lesser than the stop. So if I want to actually get up to blessing, I need to increase this stop by 1, which is to 4. So then I will now have Fuad, Rashida, and blessing. Are we together? Okay. What if I need to think around my logic? I want to print Fuhad, Rashida, 10. I know many of you might have read the Kego notes. Can somebody help us out? I want to print Fuhad, Rashida, and 10. Fuhad, Rashida, and 10. Let's quickly think through it, and we don't want to waste time on that. Who has the answer?
We add steps also.
Excuse me? I should add what? Please speak louder so I can hear you.
Yeah, skipping one. So
Hello.
maybe add steps. Hello?
Very correct. Step. Correct. You are very correct. So the last thing is the step. So I can add a step 2. So first of all, let's look at it. You should be able to look at your code, run your code in your head, and see what the output should be. Without running the program, you should be able to know what your output is going to be. So I want to form Fuhad. Fuhad is my index 0 item. I want to skip Nosa. I want to print Rashida. I want to skip blessing. So first, what index is this 10? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, index 4. So which means I have to increase this up to 5 in order to get to 10. Right? So if I run this code now, I have Fuhad, Rashida, and 10. To cap it up, 0 is the start, 5 is the end, 2 is the step. So it means you keep skipping 1, 1. If I increase this step by 3, you're going to print Fuhad 1, 2, 3, and it's going to print 10. So it's going to skip this thing. That's Fuhad, 1, 2, 3. Okay, then jumps to blessing. Sorry, my mistake for predicting that wrong. So step skipping 3, pointing the next third item. Does anybody have question? None, right? All right. Um, I want to talk about looping though, but my time, I don't want to rush through looping. Instead of that, I'll take some methods. I'll use that to explain what methods are and what are the difference between method and function. So far, we've learned that function looks like this. Print data, right? So what is now method? A method is similar to a function, such that it is majorly particular to a data structure. We have three data structure in Python. We have list, we have the data dictionary, and we have tuple. Those are the three ways to organize data. Generally, we call them data structure. So, since we are dealing with list, I can say in a layman word, we are dealing with a function that is only related to a list. To be more correct, we are dealing with a method, a list method. So now, the list is data. The first thing I want to do with this now, I want to add a new item to this. So to add a new item to this, I can use .append. Once I use .append, in a simple word, I can say add. Let's assume I want to add Olamide to the item. I can say .append Olamide. If I print out my data variable, then notice Olamide has been added to the last item. You can as well add many more. Say data dots. There's another way to do this. Note that solving a problem might not always require you to add an item to the end. You might need to add an item, maybe after Fuhad here, which is good. So which means it's going to be the second item. Let me add another item to this. Let me say I want to add David to the list. But this time, I don't want David to be the last item on my list, like the way Olamide is added to the last from the back here. I want it to be after Fuhad. So in this case, I cannot use the append function here. I will have to use the insert function. So insert is also a method of a list. Don't forget I said, if you're talking about method, it's just like saying a function that is only related to a particular data structure. So when I say data dot insert, so in this case, I have to give it what position am I putting the new item. I want to, what position is really going to be after Fuhad?
1.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. So I'll put index 1, comma, and I'll add my item. This time I'll say David. Let me use the opportunity to print my data variable. Print data. Notice that David has been added after Fuhad. So we've talked about two methods now relating to list. Fuhad, append and insert. There are many more methods we can use. For curiosity's sake, I will also advise you to go online and check more, but see if I can talk more about that. Yeah, there's also sort. I can sort my items. So if I say data dot sort, right? I print this out and I generate an output below. It's connected. print data plus type error data. Okay, as you have seen, it's unable to compare because at the background of all this method or function, a series of code working. So it's trying to compare. Is Fuad greater than David? Is David greater than? So it's going to first of all check each of the first alphabet. But the problem now comes when it gets to comparing blessing and 10. You cannot compare string and integer. Are we together? Hence, it generates type error. You can see just like what we had before. I'm going to correct this soon. Also, okay, let us actually see the power of that. I will use everything as a. Let's go back and turn everything to string. Where's my data? I'll remove those integer and floats. Run it. Then go back to that my sort, and then run this. And see it has sorted everything according to their alphabet. Any question? No question. Then let us jump into building our own function. Now I said behind all this are series of code because we just say print. Let me do this. Let me say length. This is also a function. If I say data, you want to tell me how many items I have in my. Let's say I want to write a function. Let's make it very, very simple. A function that will sum two numbers. Before we do that, let's create a new function so I can show you how it looks like. A new list. I'll say values equal to 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 items. Let me not make it like that. Let me say 10, 21, 3. Now we use a sum function now. Take note of what the functions we'll be talking about. If I say sum val, let me try to print it out. Print sum val. It's going to sum everything and gives me the result. Now, look at this. What has happened? We don't know how it is working, but it just add everything together. Let's try to build our own function that looks like the sum. To create a function, a self-defined function, we use the def. Def, you can interpret it in a layman word as definition, like we are defining our function. So let's give ourselves our function a name. Let's just say summing function. Summing function. Since it's a function, you must have this. We are going to talk about arguments. I don't want to load this class too much, but we'll come back to that. There should be an argument here, but I want to omit that argument. Let's say, okay, let's put, let me just put the argument here. Let me say a value there. Or let me say variable, any variable that you want to put there. Now, this you might not understand this, or let me say, I want to make you understand this very simple. I want to build a function in a very simple way. Variable 1, variable 2. This is simple enough. It's to beginners. So this function now is just going to sum two numbers anyway. So I'm going to say return sum equal to variable 1 plus variable 2. It is always good. I know you might be tempted to just say print sum Nothing will happen to our program if you use this. Let's even use it, but I'm going to change it later because you don't really use print inside a function. Now our function is declared. Let me declare two variables. I'll say digit one equals to 6, digit 2 equals to 10. Are we together? If I do something like this now, I want to sum it up. Naturally, I can just say print digit 1 plus digit 2. You know that will work. But since we are trying to explain the power of function, that's why we go all through this way. If you are doing a task as simple as that, you wouldn't want to build a function for it. We are going to use the function now. To call our function, I will just call my function summing function. If I run this without this, it's going to complain because our function must have an argument. When we're declaring our function, we say it should accept two arguments, variable 1 and variable 2. Are we together? If you do not put the argument, they are going to generate error. Even if you, now we put 2, if you put 3 arguments, it's still going to generate error. It's better to illustrate all this. So I'll put digit 1 as my, then comma, digit 2. If I run this now, I'm going to have an output 16. Are we together? That sum the two of them together. But in more programmatic manner, it's better you use return. Because most time when you use print, you're going to have none as part of the output you will generate. So let's now use the right word to now. We say return sum. If I run this now, I will still have an output which gives us 16. So that is how to declare a function. Does anybody have question? No question. All right. So we've talked about function, we talked about list. The time is not on our side. I want to go to that table and see how much I've been able to cover. We've stylishly also talked about conditional statements, which is the if. We've also introduced the list. So I can say I covered everything. If you go back to your Kaggle notes, function is a topic we should talk about. We've covered it. Data type, we've covered it. And as well, list, we've covered it. So it's 5 o'clock already. But let me give privilege to question if there is any. There isn't. Is there?
Sorry, I have.
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
If we run this function, it's not going to give us anything. It's just blank.
It's not going to be. When you run the function, it's not giving
blank.
anything. It's blank.
Yes, because I copied your code. Yes.
Maybe I need to see your screen. Or perhaps you did not use the return function. You did not read the return keyword.
I use the return. That's it.
What did you return?
When I use the return, I return the same code now.
That means that you're not working on Jupyter, you're working on VS Code, right?
Yes.
Which text you are working on VS Code, right?
I'm working on Python.
Okay. Which editor are you using to work? Yeah,
PyCharm.
okay, you are using his own IDE, PyCharm. Okay, hard print function, wrap it around print function. It's going to work.
Okay, thank you.
Put it inside the print function. That happens. Yeah, Jupyter Notebook has a way of helping to print out. That's why I'm very confident in just working without. By now, you should have your output. Who else have a question?
Yes,
Did it work?
yes, indeed. Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else? Okay. Learn by doing is my own policy or my own motto. I don't believe you can learn by just looking. I've told you if you don't have a system to run, use your phone. Download PyDroid from Play Store and start coding. Now, the task on Kaggle is for you to check whether you understand each of the topic. But however, I need you to put um, your skill into more practical tools. I'll be framing a problem and I'll send it to you as a document or a text. So you look through the code, you look through the question and you find a way to answer it. Aside from the one in Kaggle, the one in Kaggle is very important. Why? Because it checks your understanding for each of the topics. Why the one I want to give you builds your skill in problem solving. Because even if you know what a variable is, or understand how to use a variable, and you don't put it into practice or into more realistic practice, you might not still be able to use it. So please, if you have not done the last assignment given, let us endeavor to do it so that we can check our skill if they are really going or we are just staring at the code. I want to round up now, but if there's no question or if there's any question, please go ahead. Yes, you want to say something?
Israel, you said you wanted
Yes,
to
go
send
ahead.
us some textbooks that can help us with Python.
I want to send you some what?
Can you hear me? Some
Go ahead.
textbooks or resources on Python. You said
Okay,
you
there
wanted
are
to send us some textbooks.
No, probably you got that wrong. I said I will send some tags, not
Oh, I think it
textbook.
was Jacob that said so.
I wasn't the one. Maybe get in touch with that. But if you need some textbook, I have. But get in touch with the person that wanted to give you. You get and see
Okay, no problem.
about that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any question? Somebody is typing. Okay. I assume no question. So we can all end the class now. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.